All right, I'm sort of depressed that we have to do this again, but I'm okay with it and I'm going to keep doing it until it sticks. And it may never stick and it'll just be an ongoing conversation. And if that's the case, then so be it. Bernie Sanders' democratic socialism is not communism. And in fact, Bernie's democratic socialism isn't even socialism. It's actually social democracy, which is a form of well regulated capitalism. The number of emails and is actually going up that I'm getting about this because Bernie has a shot at the nomination, because more and more people are paying attention to Bernie Sanders. The number of emails I get about Bernie communist this, Bernie socialist that. Communism isn't invalid. Socialism isn't invalid. There is a lot to discuss and debate and explore about both. But Bernie Sanders is running a campaign of social democracy. Now, before we dig into this, I know Bernie often says he's a democratic socialist. I wish he wouldn't. He may be a democratic socialist, but he is running as a social democrat. This is a type of capitalism common in Northern Europe and certain other countries. Donald Trump calls Bernie a socialist slash communist. Those are two different things. Bernie is running as neither. Now, I tried to do some basic definitions so that we could, at a basic level, compare and contrast the three ideas. There are no perfect definitions because there will be those who envision a specific type of socialism when they say socialism, or when they say communism, they envision some prototypical type of communism. But I think that this is pretty good as a starting point for us. Social democracy is a capitalist economy strongly oriented towards social justice. And we'll talk more about that in a second. Socialism is a system of social ownership of the means of production, and communism is a system of government ownership of the means of production. These are not perfect definitions, but this at least helps us draw some lines. So when you look at this, no matter how you define this stuff, universal health care does not make a country socialist. Medicare for all is certainly not a guarantee of communism or socialism. Capitalist countries with strong welfare policies are not socialist and they are not communist. Bernie Sanders does not want to abolish private property. Bernie Sanders does not want to mandate socializing ownership of the means of production. Bernie wants to democratize the workplace where individual companies are structured in a more egalitarian way. Taxation is used to redistribute wealth to some degree so that no one's standard of living falls too low. This is really pretty uncontroversial stuff. And there's a long list of countries, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Finland, and others, that have socially democratic systems similar to what Bernie Sanders is proposing. Now, there's something very interesting about social democracy versus socialism, of social democrats versus actual socialists. There are strict socialists, actual socialists, that are often very much against social democrats who propose what Bernie Sanders is proposing. Why? Social democracy makes capitalist countries more equal. Social democracy makes capitalist countries healthier, more viable, better functioning. Social democracy strengthens capitalism. It takes the edge off of capitalism. Strict socialists are sometimes unwilling to see things in shades of gray, and they get mad at social democrats because they say social democracy will make people more satisfied with a capitalist system, which we want to go away, making it less likely that there will be a desire for a revolution in which a country actually becomes a socialist country. Now, there are many socialists that are more pragmatic, and they realize we are more likely to eventually get to socialism from social democracy than from where we are today. So there are some socialists who, from a pragmatic point of view, welcome socially democratic reforms. Now, let's get back to our definitions for a second, just to clarify that even these definitions are controversial, and I understand that. There are some who will say, David, your definition of social democracy is not really social democracy. It's welfare capitalism, and that's something else. Some will say, the real difference between communism and socialism isn't that in one, the government owns the means of production, and in the other, the people own the means of production. The real difference is that communism is necessarily revolutionary, and it includes a one-party government and one-party rule, whereas socialism need not necessarily include those things. So I understand that these are not perfect definitions, but this is a framework to think these things through. But the important takeaway is that by any reasonable definition, Bernie Sanders is not running on a communist platform, and he's not even running on a socialist platform. If he is a democratic socialist, then the platform he is running on is not one. And that is the really important takeaway that I hope we can all sort of integrate and assimilate into our points of view. What if I told you that you could read 8 books in one afternoon? That's essentially what one of my favorite apps allows you to do. It's called Blinkist, and you can try it totally free for a week and get 25% off a subscription when you go to Blinkist.com/Pakman. Blinkist takes thousands of best-selling nonfiction books, gathers the most important info and insights from each book, presents each book to you in the form of a condensed ebook or audiobook that you can consume in just 15 minutes. There are only so many hours in your week. Blinkist makes it possible for you to absorb the most valuable takeaways from nonfiction books that you otherwise might not have a chance to read. I've just finished listening to Upheaval by Jared Diamond. Jared Diamond, a tremendous author whose work I've previously recommended. Excellent book looking at some of modern history's biggest national crises to figure out how different countries ended up in such precarious situations. You can use Blinkist to get through a topic quickly and efficiently. It's really useful if you just want to explore a certain topic but don't necessarily want to commit to reading the entire book about whatever it is. And a premium subscription is only about $8 a month, which gives you unlimited access to every single book that they offer. They have books on politics, economics, philosophy, science, you name it. You can try it out yourself, totally free for a week, and get 25% off if you decide to subscribe just by going to Blinkist.com/Pakman. I've put the link right underneath this video. Like the rest of us, I bet you're going into 2020 thinking about what you didn't get around to in 2019 and your goals for the new year. If you want to work towards being your best self in 2020, understand more about the world around you, and make sure that your time is well spent, then Blinkist is for you.